So today I want to talk about certainty, and certainty is a story or stories we create to really defend against some of the pains of living. And I like this topic because it sort of dovetails with some of the stuff we've been talking about recently. But we have this deep yearning as human beings for certainty, especially as things are always shifting, always changing. It can be pretty unsettling, and just unconsciously, almost by default, we seek solid ground amidst all this chaos. We look for a narrative to hold on to, a framework to explain all the unpredictability and especially the painful nature of life. But we pay a price for craving this certainty. We pay a price. It comes at a cost. Because yes, it might temporarily shield us from the more raw and unsettling realities of living fully in the present, living fully with everything that comes at us. To cling to certainty, though, is to resist the law of impermanence of life. While to embrace uncertainty is to step into that profound aliveness of the present moment, all of it. So today I want to take a look at the idea that certainty is a story we create to really defend against that, to defend against the uncertainty, and how letting go of this story, as challenging as that might be, really opens us up to the fullness of life. Now, let's be clear, and we all know this firsthand, that certainty is comforting. It feels like a security blanket. The problem is it's an illusion. It offers a sense of control in a world that feels uncontrollable. But that sense of control is an artificial experience. We create stories, and we've talked about stories recently about who we are, about the world, about who we are in the world, about others, to make sense or to try to give some order to the unknown and the unknowable. And then at the next stage, these stories become our truths. They become the lenses through which we view life. And they give at least the illusion of structure to what otherwise feels like, and in fact is is chaos. It's like the sandcastles we build at the beach. These stories are fragile. They're unsustainable. They're always subject to reality knocking them over. These stories are washed away by this reality, just as sandcastles are washed away by the tides. And like the tides, and beneath the surface, life is ever changing. It's one of the key tenets of the Buddhist teaching. It is impermanent, it is unpredictable, and we don't like it. The Buddha clearly understood and recognized this truth, and he taught us that trying to cling to permanence in a world of impermanence is a guaranteed formula for suffering. Let me repeat that. The Buddha recognized this truth, and he taught that clinging to permanence or trying to cling to it in a world of impermanence is a guaranteed formula for suffering. Well, why do we do this? Why do we cling so tightly to certainty when we know it causes suffering? Because uncertainty is frightening. It can, in fact, be terrifying. Our path, though, asks us to embrace it. And this, let's be clear, this is a true act of courage because it reminds us of our vulnerability. It reminds us of our lack of control. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us of the inevitability of loss. Loss is coming for all of us. And so in this way, certainty, or again, the illusion of certainty, becomes a defense against the pain of all this. It's a way we try and shield ourselves from the discomfort of facing life's inherent unpredictability. But let's not kid ourselves. This defense comes with a price. And the price is that when we cling to certainty, we close ourselves off from the richness, from the mystery of life, from just embracing the flow of life. We stop exploring. We stop questioning. We stop growing. And so in our attempt to avoid pain, we shrink our world. And in doing so, we avoid joy, wonder, awe, the dynamic flow of existence, and, and perhaps most critically, we set ourselves up to be blindsided by reality, to be knocked over by reality, which is a huge source of suffering in this life. Where it's, that metaphor of whistling through the graveyard, and then bam, we get knocked over. To live life fully, as the Buddha taught, is to embrace the truth of impermanence, to embrace the reality of uncertainty. And yes, absolutely, this is a daunting prospect. It is not easy. But certainty, whether in the form of fixed beliefs, rules, predictable routines, fixed identities, it just becomes a fortress. It just becomes a wall we build around ourselves. And it can feel, the illusion can feel safer to live within the confines of these stories rather than step into what feels like the unknown. But again, as I said at the outset, it is an illusion. It is not real. With it, we're not seeing the world clearly as the Buddha instructed us. Life is uncertain, and no story, however elaborate, can fully protect us from its unpredictability. We can build layers of stories. We can surround ourselves which feel permanent. But at the end of the day, it's all an illusion. For example, consider how often we construct stories about ourselves, as we've talked about here in the past. We might tell ourselves, oh, I'm this kind of person, or this is how my life is going to unfold, or this is how I'm going to be at some point. Yes, these narratives provide a sense of stability, but they limit us and they set us up to be knocked over when reality intrudes. When we cling too tightly to these identities, these fixed identities, we're resisting change, we're resisting growth. We are living in a state of denial. Remember the three poisons that the Buddha talked about: greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay. This is the poison of delusion, the poison of ignorance that he talked about of the three. We avoid situations that challenge our fixed concept of who we are. But what that does is it limits us. We miss opportunities to learn and evolve. We don't step out of our comfort zone. We don't step out of the box that our fixed identity puts us in. And this is what happens when we insist on certainty. And this is true of our relationships also, and our understanding of the world. It really does limit us. When we cling to stories about how things should be, as we define it, as our ego defines it, we close ourselves off from the reality of how in fact things are. And let's make no mistake about it, this avoidance is rooted in fear. We fear the pain of loss. We fear the discomfort of change. We fear the discomfort of the uncertainty and the vulnerability of just not knowing what's coming next. It's a pretty terrifying place to be when we first step into it. But again, when we avoid these experiences, we avoid the aliveness that comes with being present to the truth of the moment. Present to the truth of the moment. And we risk, again, I'll say again, being knocked over when reality arrives. So if there's a takeaway message for today that I want you to think about, is that to be alive is to embrace uncertainty. To be alive is to embrace uncertainty. If we let go, if we drop the need for fixed answers, step into the flow of life with an open heart and an open mind. Okay. The first step here, and this is true for many of us, is being opposed to rigid rules, rigid dogma, fixed ideas. That's just a refuge from the uncertainty of life. Okay. This is not an easy path, but it is a liberating path. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence remind us again and again that everything is in a state of flux. And clinging to certainty, here comes a water metaphor, is like trying to hold on to a river. It is an exercise in futility. When we release our grip, release that tight holding on, That's when we open to the beauty and vitality of the river as it naturally flows. And we protect ourselves. Here's the prevention part. Protect ourselves from unwelcome surprises about which we've been in denial. Choosing to be alive means accepting the full spectrum, pleasant but mostly unpleasant, of human experience. The joys and the sorrows, the pleasures and the pain. Remember, the Taoist talked about the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows of life. We don't get to just have the joys and forget the sorrows. No, it's a package deal. And out of this, we come away with a recognition that life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be embraced. And yes, it requires tremendous courage, tremendous intention, for it means facing our fears, and especially our fears of the unknown, stepping into the unknown. Something we will avoid doing again and again unless we set an intention to do otherwise, even incrementally, even baby steps. But it brings freedom, the freedom that comes with that openness, that spaciousness that comes with embracing uncertainty. When we let go of the need for certainty, we open ourselves to the infinite possibilities of the present moment, because we're always going to be in a state of surprise and a state of awe. Our practices, our mindfulness, our meditation help us cultivate this openness. We learn to be less judgmental. We learn to put fewer things in boxes. Because by bringing our attention to the here and now, we learn to rest in the uncertainty of the present moment. We don't cling to stories. We don't cling to preconceived ideas. We don't cling to judgments. We learn to see and accept life as it is, not as we think or wish it should be. And by doing so, we free ourselves from the constraints, from the trap of our stories, and open ourselves to the possibility of being fully alive. Certainty is a story. Certainty are stories we create to defend against the pain of facing reality. But it's very limiting, and it leaves us open to being blindsided. When we cling to certainty, we close ourselves off from the dynamic, ever-changing flow of life, the ever-changing flow of the river. We avoid the discomfort of uncertainty, yes, but at a price, because we miss the vitality and the aliveness and the curiosity that comes with embracing the unknown. To choose to live fully is to choose uncertainty over certainty and aliveness over safety, the illusion of safety. When we let go of the stories we tell ourselves, we step into the mystery of the present moment. And we let go of our delusions. Not an easy path, not an easy challenge, but it is a path, as the Buddha promised, of freedom, of growth, and profound connection to the truth of existence. The Buddha taught, let go of what you think you know and open yourself to what is. This is a paraphrase from the Pali Canon. Let go of what you think you know and open yourself to what is. In doing so, we can discover not only the pain of living, which is unavoidable, but the profound beauty and wonder of stepping into the unknown. So that's some thoughts this morning on certainty as a way of defending against the unknown.